Hello, I'm Ed Rabyd, otherwise known as the Rabyd Atheist, a former pastor turned atheist, now a compassionate anti-theist. Welcome to my channel. Feel free to like or dislike the video as you see fit, so feel free to hit those buttons. Feel free to comment below, and I would appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel and hit your notification bell for more content as it is released. You're also free to share my videos as much as you like. The purpose of this channel is educational, in particular in regards to atheist and deconversion issues, and Bible theology and politics in relationship to those issues. Today is a Friday video. This is the time that I address my comments. I have gotten to the point this week, though, that there are a ton of comments, and I'm going to try to address them all as quickly as I can. I don't like my videos to go too long. So that's kind of where, I've said before that if I get to a point where I'm going to say, you know what, I'm just going to try to see if there's some commonality in the questions and just address the issues that the questions raise. But we'll see how we go, and I'll keep an eye on the clock and we'll keep going. Jeff from 6 days ago on the channel discussion, well done on the JW letter number 2. It's interesting. Normally I pass by an atheist channel, but I listen carefully. A lot of our worldviews is really similar. I'm not an atheist, but I think it commonly boils down to critical thinking. So your dialogue about the truth is well received. You're right. How arrogant for a group to just follow the ideas that only can be saved by virtue of believing that this is irrelevant 1970s startup religion cult has the truth. I heard the expression my whole life. I resent it. It is such a narrow-minded outlook in view of your pointing out the smallness of us to the contrast to the vastness of the cosmos. Interesting that the JW has changed over and over through the years. At any point in time, they have always insisted it's the absolute truth. If you challenge a particular doctrine overtly, you will be dealt with, even if you are proved right later. Anyways, your take is appreciated and interesting. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm well aware. One of the commonalities of religions, particularly that have an apocalyptic view, whenever they make like prophecies, you will find that when the prophecies don't become fulfilled, they just change them. And yet supposedly you have this absolute truth. Well, changing doesn't really kind of says, no, wait a minute, if it's absolute truth, it wouldn't change. And that's the problem with any kind of idea of absolute truth or absolute objective morality. The moment you point out that there's some changeableness to it and that there's some sort of difference in it, yeah, suddenly it's just not that way. Brian Burns, I was 8 years old when I thought BS God is real for people who believe. At that age, I said not real. Congratulations. I'm gonna tell you, Brian, you're lucky. The thing about it is, religion has such a subtle effect for a lot of people, and the way it causes you to think, the way it causes you to just go through life is just one of those things that's why I talk about deconversion so much, because you have to reorient yourself. Your worldview has shifted, and that's not always an easy task. And some deconversions are coming out of stuff that's abusive and manipulative, and that takes it to a whole new level. But even people like myself, who I wouldn't say was abused by religion per se, other than the fear of hell, I suppose, still have things to look at. Our whole lives, sometimes, in my case as a pastor, revolved around this thing. And now it doesn't. And, finding your way out of that is a long process. So those of you that are atheists or free thinkers or whatever that have gotten out of all that and never were in it, consider yourself fortunate. It's just something that really, is something that you have to dive out of. Radio Mayonnaise, 8.5 million, highly unlikely. Yeah, I'm wondering about that too. I know that a ton of cults and religious movements pad their numbers. I know that the Pentecostal church that I was a part of, the Assemblies of God, padded their numbers all the time. I think I remember there was one church that we were talking about in Michigan, where I live, that if you took all the conversion cards they had gotten over their existence, they had saved the city of Detroit like 6 times over. Well, that just can't be true. So you obviously have multiple people coming up multiple times to get saved or whatever. And so, yeah, I think numbers are padded when it comes to religion, particularly in the West. I think it's getting hard. Aaron Englehart, you say you're an atheist. Why pagan jewelry? I have gotten that question a couple times. I like pagan jewelry, but mostly it's my heritage, which after getting my genetic test done, it's pretty much, the North Sea kind of basin in Europe. It's Norwegian, Swedish, Danish, Bavarian, Dutch, English, Scottish, and Irish, all mixed into my genetic code. So, it's kind of, somebody was worshiping Wotan, or Odin. And so, yeah, the pagan jewelry kind of stays. I'm also kind of a fan of Norse mythology, and I've adopted the symbol, the Vulknut, as one of my symbols to remind myself of the 9 noble virtues, because there's 9 sides on the 3 triangles. And, I really focus more on the virtue aspects of Odinism and my heritage with it, but I don't really believe in any of the spiritual side stuff. So, but I get along with pagans really well. You guys are pretty accepting, and I can live with pagans. I don't think they're as religious, manipulatively religious as other groups of spiritual people. So I don't have a problem with them. Samurai George 71 regarding the Jehovah Witness. Their founder didn't rewrite the Bible. He died in 1916. They used the King James until 1950. That is why their translation was first published. They are a higher control doomsday group, so it is important to be accurate, or they will dismiss everything you have to say about their own history. I am fairly certain that the Jehovah Witnesses will dismiss everything I say the moment I start talking about their tract and going forward. The one thing I've learned about cults and Jehovah Witnesses, and the couple of times I've run into them, they're looking for weak people that don't know what the hell they believe. And so, I'm not an expert on the Jehovah Witnesses, and I didn't claim to. I'm just reacting. And a reaction isn't necessarily done with expertise. It simply is done with the idea of, this is what I think off the top of my head. So, yeah, I've been corrected a couple of times on that. There is some founder of a religion that translated the Bible, but I can't remember. Keen. Bit behind on the videos, so I just watched this one. This is back from week 46. I'll check out The Righteous Mind in the library. Although it was your son who recommended the book, did you have a book list of your own? I do not personally right now have a book list. I'm planning on making one. There's a lot of habits I'm trying to get back into, and one of the problems I'm having is, some regular bouts of low-level depression. So I'm fighting my way through those things, trying to get myself disciplined. I really need to get back into the gym. I really need to get my diet straight. There's just a lot of things to do. But the book list, The Righteous Mind has turned out to be pretty interesting. Not that I really disagree with the guy at all, but I haven't finished it yet either. Does religion generate empathy from Rabyd ramblings? This was a great discussion. I laughed out. He said they brought the damn diseases. It was the first time in a very long time I've had someone articulate manifest destiny and the association with religion. There's also a very good discussion on religion has made us have less empathy on how it has flowed into politics. My own niece is spreading around on social media memes about what Harris wore at the inauguration in some book of Revelation verse. It is so sad that how demonization of political foes is truly demonization. Yeah, valid point. I don't know. I don't even like to talk or think about politics at this point, because I just don't. I see, on the one hand, there's a lot of understanding of getting rid of Christian nationalism from the right, but I'm not sure moderate, liberalized Catholicism on the left is necessarily a great idea either. Just because they're nicer about it than Trump was doesn't mean it isn't going to have the same negative effects. But, it is what it is at this point. Um, the Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter going at each other was an apt statement. It is so much easier to see who is behind involved with religion. Well, it is said, it is, as you said, amazing, if not miraculous, that the true power of religion is making us gloss over the bad stuff and just make it what we want it to be. Much like politicians, they become avatars of our hopes and dreams. Maybe that is where it all started. Some strong leader we wanted to believe in was immortal, so we raised that person to God status, much like the Romans did with Augustus. Yeah, the origins of religion, I don't know. Y- I think sometimes that maybe Hitchens was right, that it's our first and worst attempt at understanding the universe, and we subscribe to everything agency, and that's the real problem. Um, Discussing religious and political issues. I don't even remember what the issues were. Such a time, so strange. Something. This is Keen again. Since this video is also on logic, no logic plus no science equals God. I think she meant it as supporting religion, though it reads very differently to us. Yeah, that does, doesn't it? Yeah, because I think logic and science are important. So. Zach with a question mark and 3 Z's. This is a funny comment. So, and I've read it a couple times and I've been thinking about it, how to respond to it, but I'm just going to read it. What if you're wrong from your level of perception and you're just wasting your time crushing other people's beliefs instead of being on a path of personal development, focused on making your life better? What do you have faith in as a human? I'm going to stop right there. That's a pretty what if, but you could say that to literally anybody who has a belief that also challenges other people's belief. Are they wasting their time? But as far as I'm concerned, I don't know. I mean, my personal motivation for doing this channel is trying to get people out of their religion addiction. So maybe that's what it is. Have you ever been evaluated psychologically for narcissism? I have a therapist, and according to her, I'm not a narcissist. She's actually pretty good. And no, you are wasting your life focused on others that are happier with you with their own beliefs. Are they happier? That's a pretty bold statement, sir. I guess how would you know that? Are you a mind reader? Are you somebody that can look at somebody and know exactly what their motivations and things are? By the way, I have to say this at this point in this comment, as I went through it and read it a couple times. I finally get to use the comment from Luke Skywalker. Amazing. Everything that you just said is wrong. Okay, I don't know. I don't think a lot of people are happy with their religious beliefs. How do you know that? They have the right to believe whatever. So do you. True. You can believe whatever the hell you want. What you don't have the right to do is impose the ethics and morals of your beliefs on me. And people who are religious have a tendency to do that. But also, I think Hitchens is right. Religion poisons everything. Who's happier? I don't know. Why you're not smiling? Boy, that's an interesting observation. Here, I'll smile. So what? People smile and don't smile. You can't be happy all the time. It's physically impossible. It's emotionally impossible. Sorry, that's just the way it is. Just because people are happier than you, an assumption on your part, you don't know that they do, and you think it's creepy. I don't think it's creepy. I think it's dangerous. And I think I can have demonstrated in the past that it is dangerous. Because you have never experienced that type of joy doesn't mean you have to rein in on their parade and focus on your beliefs in your atheist box. Okay, first of all, project much? Okay, what if this does make me happy? Who are you to come in and rain on my parade about what I do? It seems like you're projecting there, Zach. I'm not trying to be a jerk about it, but I think I have a right to do what I do. And as far as the atheist box, atheism really only has one tenet per se, and that is we simply don't believe in a supreme being because we don't feel enough evidence has been given to us to justify the proof of the supreme being. Our main problem, though, is usually people who are religious try to impose their religious ethics on us through law or morality or whatever, or just try to be jerks about it. I don't really get this, but what you're basically doing here is an ad hominem attack. You haven't addressed any of the questions or argued or anything. You just went after me on my character level. Because this is the first time you've done it, I'm just going to say this. You do it again, and I'll block you, okay? You're not allowed to do ad hominem here. And everything you said is an ad hominem attack so far. Get some sunshine and take your vitamins so that you can have more happy huntos and be more approachable in the street. Holy crap, dude. How insulting do you have to be? That's kind of really jerk behavior. By the way, I do take my vitamins. And lots of them. And as far as sunshine goes, I live in Michigan. The sun has kind of disappeared for a while. It does every winter. It's kind of like living in England half the time, as I understand it. So I do get as much sunshine as I can. But as I said before, I'm of Northern European descent, so I'm pretty white in the first place. As my daughter once said, once I showed her my genetic chart, wow, Dad, we are the white man. And she's very correct. But there is very little sunshine here. I work nights, so I sleep during the day, and I do take my vitamins and lots of them. I'm not trying to be thing, but boy, are you assuming a lot about me. You watch one video and you now assume everything about me. That's kind of rude, to be honest. You advertise your limited life and experience and ignorance and your lack of empathy every time you focus more on what others should be doing more than yourself. Meanwhile, if they're not thinking about you having an awesome day, have a best day ever, because tomorrow's not promised and yesterday's gone forever, and you heard it here first. That is not the first time I've ever heard that. So that's an untruth too. Dude, we interact with each other. We have different ideas. We have the right to express those ideas to each other. And if we feel ideas are wrong, we have a right to correct them. I think this is... To me, when you attack a person's character because you can't deal with their ideas, it shows to me that you don't really have any argument or ideas of how to do it. I'm not raining on anybody's parade. I'm out here expressing what I feel is the truth, small t, about things. For you to just come on my channel and do something like this, that's just rude. Okay, but I'm going to tell you this. Everything that you said is pretty much wrong here. You have no idea what you're talking about. And when you're assessing who I am, yeah, you're wrong. Keen, happy holidays from the Rabyd. Interesting added atheist, one would have a happier time during it. This was the first time as an atheist during the holidays. I'm happier than it's been in a long time because it was about my family and togetherness instead of thinking about a Christian as superior. Unfortunately, that what it boils down to is a celebration of the birth of God. It is glossed over in the rituals borrowed from other cultures and religions, but it's commemorate what we think of God, sometimes superior to an all-living and I guess non-living things. Choose some remote galaxy and remote planet again, combine genetic materials and take physical form. The absurdity of it is actually celebrated as being what makes it believable. Though the more impossible, it makes it miraculous. Yeah, I mean, looking back at that video about Christmas, yeah, it's kind of like that. It's just really bad. Sweaters in Harmony, still my favorite YouTuber name. Still. You know what is wild? Despite deconverting over 6 years ago, when you read that letter, I did feel that old emotional pull. The thing that put me under the spell of religion so many years ago just goes to show how powerfully emotional mind control really is. Never again. I love that comment because, in these last two comments in response to Zach, you'll notice that both of these people have kind of indicated that they're more happier without their religion. So to say that, talking to people about their religion and how it might be nonsense doesn't make them happier, I don't know, man. It seems kind of strange to me. Continuing the discussion of the benefits of religion. Keen, what you talked about in this video was that people would naturally choose beneficial actions if religion was non-existent. What he also manifested is the role of governments and its similarity to religion, and inferred the historical connection between religion and government. The issue is whether or not, as inevitable, people always mix government and some form of religion, as we recognize a major religion or not. In Japan, many intelligent get caught up with cults. It's something that is not mentioned much, but is one of the social issues of the Japanese face. Why I mention Japan is from it appears as a modern, stable, and non-Christian nation, yet it still suffers from the plague of religion. In other videos, you mentioned that religion is on the decline, but I don't know if I agree with that. Many traditional religions are disappearing, but could that be a religious-like beliefs are replacing them? It is something, there is something to be said for the idea that perhaps there are certain places that the religion is on the rebound. I do know that religion in the West is on the fade, and the people that claim no religion is on the rise. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean atheists, although atheism and agnosticism are on the rise too. They make up about half of that. But I think the last poll had 26% of people claim no religion, no religious affiliation. And about half of that is atheists and agnostics. So that's kind of where we're getting that. Now, whether the rest of the world is facing that, I don't know. I do know that the amount of apologists that have come out of Islam, one of the faster growing religions for a while there, has increased. At least I'm becoming more and more aware of them. And that's kind of really the problem, because, you know, they kind of Rabyd Reflection 20 to Berlin, looking forward to 2021. So it struck me that said that most people you ministered had mental issues. It's both funny and sad. Some of your videos mention mental total religion, but not the mental state that is one to be trapped about it. When I look around that I know who are regular church types, I can't say that they fit one particular type, although I don't have firsthand experience as you do. But they do tend to need religion. Many actually proclaim how religion freed them from another addiction like alcohol or whatever. But I don't want to generalize, because I've met many that seem pretty well adjusted on the surface, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that there aren't well-adjusted religious people. I think what I'm saying is that you will see certain things that they do that if they weren't religious, they wouldn't do them. It's an interesting discussion starter, because I think the most common, and this is something I suffer from myself, so like, to me, the most common thing I would see in Christians is the guilt complex that often led to minor depression, okay? And it's just one of those low things. Now, if you get into something more controlling and manipulative and fundamentalist, like when I was a Pentecostal, man, I used to see people do crazy stuff and believe it was God, and really was just emotionalism. And that's kind of where, it's interesting to me that people who are religious, we justify basically believing in make-believe. And somehow that's not going to have a negative aspect on your mind. If you start thinking that things that can't be proven that they exist, that's delusional by definition. People don't like Richard Dawkins saying the God delusion, but he's kind of hitting a truth. And that's kind of, by technical definition, it is delusional to believe in something that isn't there. So I disagree that religion tied with politics is something especially overt with America, because nations around the world are truly one and the same, with no attempt at separation. If anything, the majority of nations on earth have a nebulous relationship with religion, and ironically, America was the first trying to break that relationship by attempting to have a separation, at least on paper, between both of them. The point I like was that political parties are religious, but this is due to the political party or because of their supporters make everything into religion. Both Rome and Greece made their democracies into empires, and Greece accepting Alexander as a demigod, and Rome turned to Octavius and to Augustus and considered him a god in his lifetime. The leader of a nation was often not seen as a high priest, so it is a surprise this innate compulsion with humans continues to this day. As humans, we are drawn to superheroes and the supernatural, and I really do not know why. I'm going to dwell on that last question because I think it's interesting that you make that statement, because I think I do kind of know why. And it goes back to the idea of when we face circumstances that we have no power over, and we somehow uh, deal with that. And I get there's a need to have somebody to come in and ride in like a white knight and make it all go away. There's a need to balance the scales of justice. People, I get a comment, later, that atheism is some sort of is. I'll deal with that when I get there. But the idea for me is, as I've talked with some of those in the comment, it is a hard sell. Atheism is a hard sell because on an emotional level, it doesn't check off a lot of your buttons, at least intuitively, because it doesn't give you an afterlife to look forward to. It doesn't give you a big cosmic super daddy that is going to balance the scales of justice. It doesn't check off the box of a lot of other things. It seemingly doesn't have a purpose for life, but honestly, what it does is it frees you from the shackles of having somebody else determine your purpose for you. You're the best judge of what your purpose should be. And so atheism and humanism kind of differ on that regard. So I don't know. I don't get it keen sometimes either. I think we have this real sick devotion to the idea of following the leader, and doing things to look for somebody to bail us out. And in the past, I suppose being communal and following the leader has saved our butts, especially when that leader had the right idea. So maybe that's our connection for it. And, I've said it before and I'll say it again. The positive effects of God and government are about the same. The only difference is you can actually prove that government exists. And, you can't really do that with God. Beariful Powell, hi, Rabyd Atheist. The Bible, I believe, speaks for the most part of non-material things, whereas atheism is basically a theology of materialism. I'm going to stop there. As a theologian, I would disagree with you. As somebody with a master's degree in theology and a guy, and I would say this back when I still believed, theology requires a divine object to be studied. Atheism does not have a divine object, so it is not a theology. You can say it's a philosophy of materialism, but you can't say it's a theology for materialism. Sorry, you have to, unless you're trying to say that they're making a god of the material world, but I don't see atheists really doing that either. That's it's almost like religious people project that onto atheists. But atheism to me has been, even back then, was different. And I acknowledged that different even back then. I was an atheist most part of my life, and I believed everything had a material, scientific, rational explanation. One, this does not solve the circular thinking problem. I guess I would want to know specifically what the circular thinking problem is, because theism has the circular thinking problem too. Whatever, when we talk about, the uncaused cause, well, who made God? Well, nobody made God. Well, now you have an uncaused cause, and that's circular reasoning too. It discards morality for the most part, or at least the nature of it. No, it doesn't. You're assuming the nature of morality is spiritual or supernatural, and it's not. Morality is the product of being a social species. There are certain things that are good for the group and aren't good for the group and leads to the survival of the group. Morality becomes much better when you acknowledge what it's really about. But this idea that morality has to come from outside has just never been proven by theologians. I don't need a God or the nature of God or spirituality to have a good moral code. I can identify virtues without it. I can do what's right without it. No God required. The idea that morality to me, the nature of morality is the fact that we're a social species and we have to get along with each other in order to survive. Since we are all saved by grace through faith, then yes, I can't prove much of the Bible, though the material, which doesn't make it unreal. Okay, first of all, faith is a dishonest position because you're asking me to believe that something you cannot prove. The Bible also does make some very big rational claims. Paul says in 1 Corinthians 15, if Jesus Christ is not raised from the dead, we are all most miserable. In other words, if Jesus did not literally in bodily form come out of that tomb, then you have absolutely no hope of the resurrection at all. And he's absolutely correct. So to say that the Bible is completely about the immaterial, non-material, no, it's not. It makes several claims that are historical. It makes claims about the universe and how the universe works. None of that is true. I'm sorry, that's been my problem with it for a long time. Spiritual components are what make a difference between, for example, a people, say Mexicans, town of Guatemala, and that are as intelligent, capable as any other people, say an American Christian-based community, but are unable to get out of poverty, improve overall lifestyle, protect children, reduce thievery, enforce the law, live beyond survival. These are just some examples of knowing a people by their fruits. Anyhow, by all means, don't take it from me to disprove this. This is I found useful in my own walk. I'm not going to look at some of these videos. I'm just going to be honest with you. I have a lot on my plate, but one of them is titled Atheism versus Christianity. It's not really that at all. Atheism really isn't versus anything, to be quite honest. I know it sometimes seems like it. Mostly I find atheists to be on the defensive. They hear the claims of Christians or other religions, and they just say, no, that's just wrong. That's not attacking you for your religious beliefs. That's just responding to your religious beliefs. I know that sounds like, oh, atheists attack us all the time. No, I don't see that. What atheists say is, sorry, your claim is inadequate. But once again, the Bible does make some very deep, historical, rational claims. And every time those claims have been tested, they've been proven false. So that's just kind of the way. As far as testimonies go, personal experience and testimonies don't mean diddly squat to me. I am going rather long here, and I have a lot more comments to go. So I'm going to keep going, but I'm just gonna I'm gonna have to summarize a few things here. I'm going to hit some of the highlights of the rest of the comments. Akisimo, I'm fairly certain your name is Japanese, and I'm going to butcher it. So OT. I'm an ex-Jehovah's. I've written many letters like the one you received to people. It is one of the ways we used to reach people with message, the other ones being the telephone or knocking on doors. In my case, I didn't use a pre-existing template from the organization to write to people. This is something I wanted to comment on. It. Basically, OT here is saying that he probably did use a template, but it was his own. He didn't have somebody talk about it. And he confirmed that they're appealing to emotion. Barry Summer, you wrote a lot about things. Boy, dude, your comments are really short. Religious to atheists, no evidence. I'm going to comment that, yeah, I've got evidence. Okay. As far as the existence of God, no. As far as whether science and rationalism answer better questions of reality, yes. As far as evolution goes, there's a reason why it's called the theory of evolution, and science, the theory. One of my latest videos is about how apologetics is really inaccurate. Sorry, when you sit there and say things like it's just a theory, no. One of the things that greatly impressed me as I began to look at evolution is how much bloody evidence there is for it. There is a lot. What's on your necklace? I've gone over that. I had used a lot of pagan symbols. Volknut. I'm very fond of wolves and ravens, the hammer of Thor. I have another one that's a Viking helmet and axes with Viking runes. That's my heritage. I'm trying to see if there's safe meld analogy is wrong. Introduce safety in long run work. No. When I speak of economics and seatbelts and all this other stuff, what you discover very quickly is that often safety standards that are added to make something more safe actually make things worse. If end of January just found you, G is because E can't be no proof, the nature of G. During your education, you'll have learned the falsehood of the gap theory. I have an enormous advantage over you. I have uncorrected destiny now 76 years, so it's hard to unlearn. I have never had an education. It is the failed gap theory that needs relearning. Genesis are not the same time in the beginning. Okay. That doesn't change the fact that Genesis 1 and 2 are conglomerations of other creation myths that existed at the time. Various ones from that Eastern. The Bible's Genesis account is not the oldest account of a creation myth, very much like that, or the oldest account of Noah, or whatever. Mr. DLCX wrote me a long comment with a lot of Bible verses, and I'm going to tell you what I tell everybody who writes a lot of, I don't believe the Bible. You can say God is love all you want to, but you better prove it. And you better use empirical evidence, not your holy book, because your holy book doesn't mean anything to me anymore. And I know your holy book. I have a biblical studies degree, a theological studies degree, and 20 years of ministry where I studied your holy book to preach messages for those 20 years. So you might want to try something different. Rabyd ramblings, what apologists need to be more effective. This was enlightening me. Thanks for opening a new window. I never put together the addiction to religion, and is no different than any other addiction. It makes sense to me now that these 12-step programs have success because it's replacing one addiction with another. I guess it's debatable whether getting away from alcohol, drugs, and gambling to religion is a step up. Yeah, it's very debatable because I think the problem I have with it is that religion gets the credit and really it's the person doing it themselves. They're just using, I could take the 12-step program from Alcoholics Anonymous, and if I ripped all references to spirituality out of it, I still would probably get the same results. I don't think that that's so much, a conditioning thing. So that's kind of the King of the Dots. I've discovered that the witnesses produce more atheists than Christians. As a fader, I was very surprised of their successes. My friend received a letter from the overseer and coordinator of whatever it's called now, but he did not get a tract. My friend got shortchanged. King of the Dots, welcome. I think you're new. But yeah, I think cults do produce atheists a lot faster than regular Christianity. Moderate Christianity doesn't abuse you like that, and I think that's Barry Summer. Just listening now, 70 years literate, 38. Yes, I was an atheist. Jay was convinced God is. 71 years and found 7 out of the jail cult along with the others, so I got rid of religion. So it's just now me and God. I like it. If evolution has no evidence, then God is. Evolution has tons of evidence. You probably should go look it up. The reason it's called the theory of evolution is because it has so much evidence, so much facts, so many data, so much peer-reviewed papers that have to go through tons of scrutiny to prove it. It has been observed in reality. The notion that evolution has no evidence is simply not true. Sorry, it has a lot. Randy Constantine, I found the writings of the .org to be absolutely ridiculous and delusional, making no sense. Like you said, someone high on LSD. Thank you, sir. I appreciate all the comments. I know that this video is incredibly long, but there was just so many. And it just highlights, if you stuck around to this point, thank you. We're almost up to 40 minutes. What? Good grief. But if you stuck around this point, thank you very much. Probably in the future, when I get this many comments, I'm going to probably kind of sift through them and get to the meat of them and try to get it back under 25 minutes or so. I do apologize for the extra length. But thank you for sticking around. And if you're still sitting there listening to me, thank you very much. But I felt some of the comments had to be addressed, particularly some of the ones that were a little bit more attacking. Once again, ad hominem attack on people's persons not allowed here. You get one warning. The second time you do it, you're done. Okay, I'll just block your comments. If you're going to deal with me, engage the argument. Be civil and engage the argument. Accusing me of stuff, that's just not a good way to get on my good side and get a good conversation. And once again, thank you for stopping by. I don't know what's going on, but in the last couple of days, there have been like a lot of new subscribers. I'm growing every day, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And hopefully someday I can convince you to be a rabid atheist like myself. In the meantime, this is Rabyd, also known as the Rabid Atheist, signing off and wishing you a good day.